Okay, good evening, everyone. I see lots of people joining. It's nice to see you tonight. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College, and I'm here tonight with Harlan Cohen. He's a best-selling author, a journalist, and a speaker, and I'll give you more details about his background in a minute. I just need to, get this going on Facebook as well. And while I am starting this to stream on Facebook, I would love to see if people tell us where they're watching from, what year their student is in high school. I imagine a lot of people, have a freshman that's starting this fall. Let us know if you want to, where they're starting school. You might have an existing, a college student. You might actually, because we sent this to families with younger students as well. You might have a junior in high school. So I'd love to know all that information. And I'm just going to get this started in the meantime. Okay. And actually, Harlan, do you mind, while I get this started on Facebook, do you want to tell people a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It's good to be here with everyone, and I'm so excited to have the chance to spend this time with you. I am an author of 7 books. One's a workbook, so if you call a workbook a book, you could say 7. But that workbook's actually the Naked Roommate First Year Survival Workbook. I have been working with college students and families for over 20 years, and my most popular book is The Naked Roommate and 107 Other Issues You Might Run Into in College. And I also have a book for parents called The Naked Roommate for Parents Only. So the naked part, don't be intimidated, please. I know 15 years ago when the book came out, the world was very different. The world was very open when it came to the naked roommate. Things have got more conservative. But the naked roommate is just a representation of when you are in a situation where something surprises you, what do you do? And how do you react? And the naked roommate is deep with research. It's used as a textbook on a lot of college campuses and in high schools. It's even used in graduate programs. So it's been really remarkable to see it grow over the years. And I just love supporting families and supporting students as well.
Well, great. Thank you, Harlan. Sorry, I need like 2 seconds. My mouse is giving me a lot of trouble tonight, so that was why.
Yeah.
But thank you for giving us your background. And I just wanted to reiterate before we even get a little deeper that tonight is sponsored by College Ave Student Loans. I know you guys, if you follow me, that College Ave sponsors a lot of really great events, tonight included. Actually, Harlan does a lot of work with them. And we were just talking before that we really feel lucky to be able to work with a company like College Ave, because they're interested not just in providing student loans, but also in providing information and education around the whole process of going to college, which is so important. And we'll even talk, throughout tonight. Harlan and I talked about one particular topic, which we didn't, we realized, but I always come at things a little bit more from a financial angle, and Harlan comes at it, maybe, from a emotional, social angle. And, there are issues that ultimately could impact the cost of college, and that you may not realize. So we're going to actually touch on it sometime today. Wow, so many people here tonight from Sacramento. Oh, I'm sorry, Kerry, your son is going to be a freshman at Dartmouth College. I actually went to Dartmouth, so I have to say I know that he will have a wonderful time there, and good luck to him. Oops. Let's see, we have Tracy with a rising senior in Maryland, and Greg who has a student going to University of Arizona in Cambridge, somebody from Asheville, North Carolina. Wow, so many different places across the country. And it's nice for everybody to be here tonight. Let me just 2 little things of housekeeping. This is recorded, so you'll get a link actually tomorrow. Plus we actually have a little, what we call a tip sheet of a summary of some of the most important points that we're going to talk about tonight. So you'll get a copy of that. It's also going to be on Facebook. So there's different ways of rewatching this, or sharing it with friends if you want to, or if you have to leave early, you can come back and watch the rest of it at a later point.
But this is so great, Debbie. I'm looking at all the people from all these different places as well. And I've been to so many of these places, and even Embry-Riddle in Prescott, Arizona. I know what it's like out there.
I've never been there. I know a lot about the school from just helping people and researching it, but I've never been there myself.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm so excited that there are all of these families here and parents here. It looks like a lot of them, they're starting next week. It's like in the next couple of weeks. So there's a lot of emotion, I'm sure.
Oh, wait, did you see here what Sylvia said? She goes, I gave the naked roommate to every senior graduation that we attended this summer.
Well, thank you. My family thanks you. We really appreciate it. And I'm so excited that I could be here. Thanks, Sylvia.
Okay, so I don't know, Harlan, do you want to start by going through your rules? You wanna...
Yeah, let's get rolling. So I know that Debbie is so knowledgeable and is an expert, having 3 children who have gone through this. So you are the expert in residence when it comes to this. Let me start off by asking you, when it comes to saying goodbye, dropping a child off, are you a crier? Are you cold and stoic? Like, where do you fall in terms of showing your emotions during this moment?
I am a crier. I am a crier before we even leave the dorm.
And you have no problem crying. You just let it out.
Yeah, I do.
So your kids know, though. It's not like you must cry a lot then. So it's like mom's crying again.
Kind of. Yeah, my kids know it. Like, we watch movies, I cry, so.
Okay. That's great. So you're crying. And for those parents who are crying, the advice is to just not cry so much that they need to call the paramedics.
Right.
Then you become a center of attention. But emotion is good. No emotion is almost, you look almost cold. And then the kid's like, do they really love me? And if you have a child who's going to a community college, is going to be local, all of this is relevant as well. I like to start off with this question. You could put this in the chat as well. I love to know where you are tonight on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 best day ever, 1 worst day. You don't have to text me. We can do it through the chat and the discussions. And if you could include something with your number, so we could get an idea of why you are what you are. You might be a 10 because you're so excited your kid is going to go because they've been pushing so hard and being so annoying. If your kid really loves you, they're really annoying this time of year because it's that separation thing. And if they're not annoying, they still love you too. But anyway, if you can just let me know where you are. And it's also fun in the chat for people to see where you are. This is also a wonderful question to ask your child when you're communicating. You could just say, hey, how are you today on a scale of 1 to 10? And I find they're pretty good at responding to this 1 to 10 thing and you could ask them, share, just give me a word or two, because it's easy, it's fast. And what's also interesting is you could do this through text. But what I find is a lot of students are better through Snapchat, or they're better through TikTok, or they're better through a different platform. There was one mom who shared a story about her kid cut her off and she needed to make airline reservations. And she was so enraged. And she said, I'm just, you need to get back to me. So she cut off the bank account, and the kid got back to her very quickly. And that was the thing. And the mom said, why aren't you texting me? And the kid said, because I've just been really busy, just send it on Snapchat. So then the mom communicated on Snapchat, and boom, right away, they were able to get an answer. So that 1 to 10 is really great. I want you to know also, and Debbie mentioned College Ave, but we're going to give away a few best first year in college programs. I have a new online course that I created, and it's called Best First Year, and it's videos. And I also do monthly discussions and Q&A. This is for students and parents. And I'll share the website of this as well here. I'll just put it in here, but it's bestfirstyear.com. That should go to the site. But it's courses.bestfirstyear.com. And anyway, you could check that out. I put that in the chat. So this is a big year, and there's lots of dreams. And I want to set this up real quickly before I get into the 5 particular rules. So you, your kids in particular have really had to deal with a lot of adversity. I mean, you know that, but they started with a dream, and then this whole COVID thing happened, and they were devastated, many of them. I have a junior, an entering a rising junior, and man, he had a tough time. He was in 8th grade when this all went down. And what's really interesting, when you look at next year's class of traditional students, they have not had a normal year since 9th grade. Isn't that nuts?
Wow.
So if you look at this, students who in 12th grade, their last normal grade was 9th grade. So this next year, we're hoping will be a normal year in terms of normal, but this idea of students being really shaken and emotionally tired, it's real. And as parents, understanding this and really being prepared for what's next is so important. This is my kids, when we were in the height of the pandemic, this is what my 7th grader looked at when he opened his computer every morning during remote learning. Isn't that nuts? And these led to other links. And then he was supposed to do well. You know, it's wild. The good news is things are back. This is I have a friend who's in the entertainment business, and he hosts concerts, and I've seen, you know, through the past few years what's been going on. And this is something he posted on his Facebook from Bowling Green, and this is from October last year. And you can see big crowds, people are getting involved, and it's really wonderful. But like I mentioned before, there's that emotional uh, tale of COVID. And when your kids get uncomfortable, because a lot of them will, you know, that big reaction, that big uncomfortable feeling is something that I think is going to be there more than any time before. So I want to help you to be there, and also to encourage your kids to really make the effort to get involved, to be engaged in this experience. Debbie, how are people doing? What are some of our numbers here? Let's look through this.
Actually, the last kind of bunch were like 5s, but before that there were a lot of 8s.
Everybody's so happy.
Yeah.
Someone's at the beach.
I saw somebody at the beach. Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Good for you. And it will fluctuate. It will fluctuate. If any of you are familiar with Challenge Success, it's a program from Stanford, and I had the chance to visit with Denise Pope, and I talked with her for about 45 minutes. You could see this on my YouTube channel, but Denise talked a lot. And, you know, here, I'll share this quick clip. I always hate to share clips because, like, I'm here, so why are we sharing a clip? But let me just share this with you because I think it's really telling. So, true or false, where you go to college is the #1 determining factor when it comes to student success and satisfaction. Is that true or false?
False, 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 false.
False, false, false. So everybody watching this, I want you to be crystal clear. Where you go to college is not the #1 determining factor.
Not where you go, it's what you do there. That I can shout from the rooftops. I can say unequivocally. You can make it as dramatic as you want. It's we have the data to back this.
So I love that. And Debbie, I know that you're helping students to find the best fit, and sometimes the best financial fit might not be the #1 choice for a student, or that dream school is not a financial dream. And I want to just reassure parents and families that wherever your child's going, they could be exceptional, you know, and they will be, because they are exceptional. It's really about what you do when you're there. And I'll share this throughout the program, but people, places, patience. That's like the 3 Ps. It's, where are your people? Did I lose? What happened here? Are we still here?
Yeah, we're here. You're here, but it's showing a the Zoom page.
Why do you think it's doing that? Why would it do such a horrible? Okay, there we go. What is going on? There we are. That was fascinating. Wasn't that?
Oh no, but it's, maybe you want to unshare, because it's still sharing the Zoom page.
Unshare. I don't know. I'm not sharing anything. Did I accidentally hit share?
I think you might have accidentally hit something.
In my
for
excitement?
share.
Hold on. This will stop sharing. Do you want to continue?
Yeah.
Continue. Let's see. I don't think I'm sharing. Let's see. I'm looking on my live here. I don't know if it's a me thing here. Let me see. Because I am not sharing. Let's see. Oh, everybody, we're in such a good flow.
Who's Waltz? Waltz is sharing his screen.
Who is sharing?
Waltz, W-A-L-Z. You are viewing Waltz's screen.
Okay, so someone named
Ah.
Wallace.
That is bizarre. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I've never had somebody else be able to share their screen.
Well, someone is. It's W-A-L-Z. You can see that.
Okay.
Uh,
Wallace took over. I wonder if this is a friendly.
gosh, guys.
Is there a Waltz in the
Let me,
W-A-L-Z? Or is this someone trying to get in?
yes, there is. Hold
Hi,
on.
no, it's me. I'm listening, but I don't know what I did.
Okay, I got it.
I have no idea.
Okay, okay. Wow, that was
Thank
a
you.
first.
Thank you.
A first because I love having you guys here in meetings, but I didn't know you could take over the sharing.
Me
And so-
neither. Me neither.
Wow.
Okay, sorry about that, Harlan, but.
Are we
okay,
back? Are we
And thank
good?
you for whoever jumped in to help us
Oh,
This
there
is
we go.
figure that
Naveen.
out.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
Naveen, yeah.
Well, I'm glad Walls didn't show us anything inappropriate. That was very, right. That was very good. Everything. This is the beauty of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and the unexpected. Like this is like a day in the life. You know, I got 3 kids and like I never know what's going to happen, but I always know it's going to be okay. And like this has really been my philosophy, and it's a philosophy I share with parents and families is it's going to be okay. Like there's going to be things that are unexpected and they happen and then they pass. And the majority of them don't have a long lasting impact. But I think because so many people are so worn down by the past few years, when discomfort comes up, it becomes like so heightened. And as parents and families, we really need to be the ones to really help to be able to manage that. So in terms of like what your biggest worry is, it's always helpful to know like what are you coming here with, like what's on your mind in terms of what you're most uncomfortable with.
Sorry to interrupt. Carrie made a perfect statement. I know this feeling. She said, I'm most worried that my kid won't ask for help before it's too late.
Yeah, well, they're going to ask for help when it's too late, and that's okay. But like too late in the sense of, and I'm just kind of yes-anding you, because if this is what your kid does, chances are they're gonna do the same thing. But when they do that, it's recognizing, okay, well, you did this, so what could you have done differently? And how are you going to learn from that? And that really dovetails beautifully into the first rule, is to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. This idea that whatever it is you're worried about are things that are valid and reasonable, but understanding that your kids might have to make some of those mistakes. You know, they might have to go through some of those things. I see worried that my son will spiral and I won't be near him to help. And one answer to that is, if you're worried about certain things ahead of time and you have a child who has a history of being challenged in certain areas, then being proactive in terms of people, places, and patients, of if my child has a mental health issue that they've worked through in the past, who's that person, that therapist, that counselor? Maybe it's through telemedicine where you can have those set up. Maybe it's through the local community, having a therapist there. With your child who you're afraid of isn't going to get help until they need it. Well, the last time that happened, who helped them? Who helped your child? And how could that person be there so that that concern could be talked about ahead of time, so there could be some pre-planning? With the understanding, there's probably going to be another area that no one's planned for, that will be a soft spot for him, for your child. But the pre-planning part and the worried, I think, is really important. I love these are so wonderful. We could spend the whole time just talking about these. Worried that she's not sure she picked the right school. And I am such a firm believer, and I don't know about you, Debbie, the school is not the most important part of this. You know, a lot of schools have a ton of resources, and a lot of schools have similar organizations, and a lot of schools have places where students can engage. So for the parent who's worried that she's not picking the right school, well, what does the right school have? Where are the places your daughter is going to sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. Because places are where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. So where are the places? And you could even ask her that question of, when you get to school, where are some of the places you plan on spending your time and just sharing experiences? Because that's going to help her to then create an experience at this school that's going to be meaningful and allow her to really acclimate and to make that her new home. Do you agree with that, Debbie?
Absolutely. I'm just reading some of the other ones here. Cecilia is worried that her son will be a hermit when he gets there. I know that feeling, you know, of and if you know your child's personality, and then being afraid to kind of venture out to the unknown and to meet, you know, new friends. It's hard. You know, there's the excitement of starting college, and then there's the reality of the first few weeks of getting there and not having things be familiar. And you're kind of starting over. You were at the top in high school, and now you're, you know, at the bottom of the social ladder in college.
Yeah, and to add to that, Cecilia, campus jobs are such a wonderful way of forcing students to leave their rooms, because when they have somewhere to go and they have something to say and something to do, they have to be engaged. So for those of you, even if you can afford college and there's no money issues, working is so important because it forces them to be in places doing things that are going to expose them to other people. Also, this part of, you know, some of your kids just really don't want to be involved, or the things that they love doing, how can they do those things with other people? I'm thinking of, like, what I was thinking of are people who love to play games. You know, a lot of students will be hermits and they'll play games. So with your son, it's, if you play a game or if you're in a room doing something, just open your door, because maybe if you're playing music or if you are doing some gaming, if you could do it with other people, tends to be a more meaningful experience. Gosh, there's so many great things. Oh, and let me see. I saw the note from Walls. You're wonderful. Don't worry. Don't spend a second. Focus on you. Nobody cares. It's not a big deal. As a father of a strong-willed, confident daughter, I still feel for her of meeting someone in a social setting that may not want to take no for an answer. I think that's really important. The fear of my child being vulnerable or being a target. And in that situation, it's really healthy to ask the question of, you know, how do you feel about your safety? You know, is that something that's a concern to you? If somebody didn't respect your boundaries, like, what would you do? You know, how would you handle that? Also, looking at the campus newspaper and seeing what issues have been in the news in terms of safety on campus. It really helps to give you a sense of what's going on. And for your kids who are like, you're just overreacting, or you don't know, it's like, you can introduce this, hey, I saw this article, or I saw this tweet, or I saw this TikTok or whatever. Like, this is why, as a parent, it's kind of fun for you to go to these other places, because it gives you an entryway to have these conversations. So,
but it's really hard. I know Harlan, my son goes to school in a city, and the school lets you have a alert, you know, so it's this the campus police alert.
Yeah.
And so I kind of struggled whether I wanted to know the alerts of what was happening or not. And, you know, and I didn't know, every time I saw an alert, should I contact him? Should I make sure that, not that there's crazy, you know, this going on, but, you know, every few weeks there would be something, and didn't know, you know, how nervous I should be about it.
Yeah. I mean, as a parent, and this is another point, we're not going to get to everything because there's so much, but I think it's really important for parents, and right now everything's heightened because you want to make sure that you have a healthy send-off and that your child can find their way. But the more you have going on outside of your child's life, this question of what are you excited about? You know, like Debbie, I know you have a lot going on, and you're very busy doing lots of things other than probably thinking about your kids. But that's not always the case for all parents, because especially if this is your last or your only, and you no longer are part of a school community, if your child was an athlete and was very involved or in some part of some activity, your school is your place. And that's where you spend so much of your time. So a lot of it is, what do you have in your life that excites you and challenges you and gets you excited? Because the more you have that excites you and challenges you and gets you excited, the less you're going to be worried about reading the alerts and focused on
That's true. That
all
is
the
true.
things, right? Because you're just going to be so busy living your life
Right.
that the alerts that are really important, you're going to hear about it, and you can trust your kids going to hear about it, or the person studying next to them is going to hear about it. They're going to know about it, and the school will make sure that they're aware. I think it's those other things of like, what's your plan for going out? What's your plan for if somebody, you go to a party and everybody leaves, how are you going to get home? And then it's okay, well, they'll have an Uber or a Lyft or a campus ride service, just talking through that. And this is another little quick tip of, if you get a ride service, make sure they tell you who they're picking up. Don't say who you are.
Mhm.
Say, hi, I'm Harlan Cohen. Are you my ride? Because if they're not your ride, they could say yes. And I've seen college students talk about that. So I want to get to these 5 rules, but your concerns, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing these. Gosh, you could send me notes later if you want, like find me, I'll answer your questions. I answer them through Instagram. I do this because I want to help you and support you, but I also want you to know that the this is not an overstatement. Your kids are going to be okay. Like, most of your kids are going to be okay, and they're going to deal with some uncomfortable situations, but most of them are going to be all right. I've been doing this for years, and I know I shared a little bit, and I'll be very brief. I've written 7 books. One's a workbook. I have a dating book, a parent book, these college books. The Naked Roommate was on the New York bestseller list a bunch of times, the New York Times bestseller list. And I also mention this because I was always like a 2.9 student, 3.1. I failed classes freshman year in high school. I failed classes freshman year in college. One year, I mean, it was like I struggled, but I turned out to be okay. And that's also part of this. Some of your kids might struggle when they are dealing with their challenges. I also want you to know I'm in your corner. I do a lot on TikTok. Debbie and I were talking about
A
that.
ton. You should check Harlan out. I kind of went myself on TikTok the other day, and I was like, oh my God, Harlan's done so much great stuff here.
I was telling Debbie, it's so cool because I've been doing this for like 20 plus years, and students, in the comments of these, they share, they're open, they're just so, they're so honest, and I am overwhelmed because the community. So you could be a fly on the wall, and you can also check and you can see, here's what's happening, and search and check out TikTok, check out Instagram. Anyway, I travel all over. I was on the Today Show a couple days ago. The program's going to air at the end of August, and I was talking to Al Roker about parenting and tips. So it's been really fun to be able to do all this. I also am a dad. These are my 3 kids. We were in Cleveland a couple days ago. This is Progressive Field. Any of you from Cleveland? That stadium is beautiful.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
really nice. I was thinking of that in this picture.
It was so cool. You walk in and you like are over the bullpen. I'm going to relate everything to college because, right. Because if you have a kid who's going to school in Cleveland in the area, or if they're in Ohio, or they're by any sports team, during the first couple weeks of school, a lot of times the student activities office will have like discount tickets for stuff. Like, I'm sure Debbie, is one of your kids in New York? Is that one of
Oh,
them?
in Philadelphia, but you're right. They've gone with their friends in college to the sports games.
Yeah. And they're discount tickets. And sometimes there'll be performances, there'll be like traveling Broadway shows, but like they should look at the student activities, or you could even look and just kind of do a nice little, hey, did you know you can get cheap tickets for this? And they could go with a friend. And it's wonderful because they're easy ways to share experiences. Now, we spend a lot of time in the high school years talking about college and getting in and the financial piece. But there's so much that people don't know, and so much that parents need to know. I don't call parents names. I think you're so important. I think it's so unfair how you're treated. It's very difficult when you go to college, when your kids go to college, because there may not be as much communication, but an involved parent is a healthy parent. It's just how involved. And I want to help you to be able to do that with these 5 rules. So, all right, I'll get to rule number 1. Debbie, should I take a breath? Is there anything that we need to address in our chat?
Lots of good comments, but I think you should keep going.
Okay, let's keep it rolling. So simple rule number 1 is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Now, this first year is a change for you, and it's also a change for your kids. And if you have high achieving kids who have always gotten the outcome they're used to getting, this year will knock them on their butts, most likely at times. And if it's not this year, then it could be sophomore year. But I like to tell students, or I like to offer parents the advice, tell your kids this is going to be the getting comfortable year. Like your first year at a new job, your first year in a new city. It takes a good year. Now, no one told me this. I come from a great school. I went to a big university. I went to University of Wisconsin in Madison. I thought it was going to be great. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My roommate was not my friend. A quick roommate rule. And I've got lots of videos on this. Roommates are not required to be friends. Friendship is a bonus. Your only requirement is to coexist and to hopefully live by the uncomfortable rule. The uncomfortable rule says, if either of us does something that makes the other uncomfortable, we agree to share that. That's it, within 24 to 48 hours. And then we can talk. Your kids can talk because they don't have to be so worried about offending their roommate if uncomfortable is the foundation, that we have an agreement, we share our discomfort. Anyway, my roommate wasn't my friend. I didn't know how to make friends. I had no plans to make friends. I tried to get into fraternity. I got rejected. The only thing I had going for me was my girlfriend. I loved her. I never had a girlfriend like this. I never had a girlfriend. So this was amazing. And I wanted to keep her. And she was a year younger than me, but I got uncomfortable and I held on to her too tight. And she was having a great year and I got depressed. And her father compared our relationship to a dying puppy. He said, Alexis, shoot the puppy. She shot the puppy. And I was devastated. And I'm at this amazing school, University of Wisconsin in Madison. This is what it looked like when I moved in August. And this is what it looked like the rest of the year. So it looked like this when I moved in. And it looked like this when I walked to class. And no one told me it could be so uncomfortable. And I really struggled. I didn't do good with change. I thought I was the problem. I thought the school was the problem. But the problem is I just didn't know that this could be difficult. And I did what a lot of students do. I transferred. I went to Indiana University because I had friends there. I had brothers who went there. I was in a fraternity and I was a legacy, so they had no choice but to take me. And this worked out for me. And here's what I did. I found my people, I found my places, and I was patient because it was familiar. When things are familiar, it's easier to be patient. And this formula of people, places, and patience, it's so ridiculously simple, but it is so powerful because the changes we're not in a familiar place. Oh, this is so interesting, Debbie. COVID was a dress rehearsal for losing your people, losing your places, and getting impatient. If your kids identified with one particular group or organization and they felt lost and abandoned, you could just remind them, hey, like, where can you find joy outside of other people and other places, just while you're establishing yourself? And this is such a powerful gift of like, what can you do that you can do no matter what? Because a lot of kids are dependent on other people and other things to create their experiences. So when someone says my kid's a hermit, I'm like, well, at least they know how to occupy their time. Hopefully they can find some joy and be happy with that. But then if you could do the things that you're doing when you're a hermit with other people, then you got the best formula. Now, there are 5 big transitions that we deal with when we go to college: social, making friends, relationships, emotional, everything between our ears. We know students are dealing with more emotional challenges than ever before. The physical transition, being in a new place, they're moving, or being in new classrooms, the financial transition. And then there's one more, and I think it's fascinating that the academic is at the end of this horrible acronym, this horrible SEPFA, because academics is where we spend all our time, but academics is where you tend to see the symptoms of the student who's having challenges. because it's a student who doesn't know about these transitions and doesn't have a plan on how to navigate these transitions, or doesn't have people in their corner and thinks they're alone. And that mom who said, or dad who said, I'm worried my kid will wait till it's too late. Well, if they have people in places, they're going to be surrounded by people who they can talk to. And if they have been too late in the past, they can have a plan on how they'll be ahead of this. Life's 90% amazing, 10% a bunch of BS. The 10% tends to be front loaded when you're dealing with change or when you're dealing with a pandemic. It's very uncomfortable. A lot of students get homesick. If your student feels homesick, you could be like, you know, that's normal. Like, you really love us. You know, we're amazing. I understand. It doesn't get any better than us. We're just fantastic. You don't have to actually say that, but it's normal. And one of the knee-jerk reactions is for students to want to come home, to want to be around familiar people. And that's not the answer. The answer is to acknowledge that this is hard. And the way that you're going to establish yourself is to find those places and people. And if you're homesick, feel it. Let other people know. And this is where having that plan of who can I talk to? Who can I reach out to? It's very hard, Debbie. And I don't know if you know, I don't know what happens in your home, but I know with my home, you know, my kids during that pandemic, they really struggled. Their mental health was a real challenge. And this is data from 2019, which I find fascinating. 55.9% of students felt hopeless. This is according to the American College Health Association. They do this. Oh, no, this is, yeah, this is the American College Health Association. They do this survey. This is 2019. 55.9% of students felt hopeless. In 2011, it was 45.2%.
Wow.
We know since 2019, these numbers have increased in terms of students feeling uncomfortable. And understanding and giving your child permission to be uncomfortable is okay. That first semester, that first term is the most challenging. And if they have room to be uncomfortable and not get the grade they got before, and to struggle with their roommates if they're on campus, and to just not have the answers. And if you're like, yeah, that's okay, it's going to make it easier for them. It's not, you don't just do nothing about it. You find your people in places and work through it. So I have another book that came out. I don't know where's a copy of it. Anyway, it's called Win or Learn, The Naked Truth About Turning Every Rejection into Your Ultimate Success. And this takes the bones of Naked Roommate, and it really brings out the most important pieces. I don't know if you're a growth mindset person, or I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Carol Dweck and growth mindset. This idea that when you deal with a challenge, instead of the problem being you or the world around you, it's more of this particular moment. It's like, I didn't get the grade I want now, yet. I didn't get the grade I want yet. I didn't make the friends that I wanted to make yet. It didn't happen yet. And a lot of your students are really impatient. This truth, this universal truth, and I could spend an entire hour just talking about this, I find to be so helpful and so powerful. The universal rejection truth says not everyone and everything will always respond to you the way you want. Like gravity, there's no escaping this law of nature. And you have so many students who fight this truth, and so many parents who fight this truth. Because if your kids go into this school that you've worked so hard to support them to get into, well, then it should be great. And if it isn't, then what's wrong? Well, the universal rejection truth of going to college says not all schools are going to be the best schools right away. The universal rejection truth of making friends is not everybody's going to make friends right away. The universal rejection truth of life in the classroom is not all students are going to get the grades they're used to getting. So when they recognize this truth, it is so freeing, because they don't have to be the problem and the school doesn't have to be the problem. It could be the universal rejection truth. And that's part of change. And this is where so many students beat themselves up, or so many parents get stuck in what's wrong. Nothing's wrong. This is just a big uncomfortable change. And high school has done a great job of not helping students to train to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Students who fight the truth, they hate, hide, and attack. If they don't get into a fraternity or sorority, well, they're gonna feel lonely and upset. The universal rejection truth of going through rush. If their significant other is no longer their significant other, they struggle with that. Students who face the truth, they're able to look inward, look outward, and move forward. Parents who can embrace this truth are much more patient and empowered to help their students, their kids, to breathe easy and to find their people and places. So I spend the most time on this one because getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is the foundation. Because a parent who's heightened is going to heighten their kids. A parent who understands uncomfortable is going to be much better equipped to listen and instead of reacting, to respond. Debbie, with your kids, was there a particular issue or challenge that you're open, that you can share, that they wouldn't be upset that you're sharing in terms of discomfort?
Yeah, I mean, particularly my son he just finished his freshman year, and he applied to certain clubs. You had to, where he goes to school, you have to, at some schools he had to actually, interview, and
Yeah.
he didn't get into some of those clubs. The first kind of time he was ever rejected like that, he was very upset, didn't know what to do. And then of course the whole fraternity rush time was very nerve-wracking for him, because he was torn. This is very interesting. He didn't really want to be part of, he wanted to be part of a fraternity, but he didn't want to go through the whole rush scene.
Mhm.
And he didn't know how to handle that, and then didn't know how to handle whether or not his friends were going to end up at the same fraternity. It's a whole
Yeah.
it's a pressure pot.
It's
And then he was feeling pressure from the upperclassmen trying to get him to go to different places. And he actually ultimately decided not to rush. And he was very nervous that he made that decision, but then ultimately happy. But you don't know where they're going to end up feeling. He didn't know where he was going to end up feeling.
it's very hard. And then and it's a powerless feeling, I'm sure, as a spectator watching him go through this.
Yes.
There's not a ton you can do.
Right. There's not.
It's his,
It's his decision.
Yeah.
And you can help guide, but you can't make it better necessarily in the
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
maybe we could when they were earlier.
So where did he find his places?
And it's funny, so he likes to write, and so in high school he was on the newspaper, and he joined the college newspaper. Here's actually an interesting thing. He joined the college newspaper. He was a very good writer, but he didn't get a writing assignment, and he was very upset about that. But he wanted to stay part of the newspaper, and he's a good photographer. So he took up photography, and he did a lot of photography for them. So he found his place there.
Yeah, I got chills. That's so cool. I love that he went through this. He had to deal with the rejection. I do a lot of work with Villanova, and it's another place where there are so many students. I mean, this happens at a lot of competitive schools where you have a lot of students who are competing to get into these organizations, and they don't get in, and they dealt with rejection for the first time, and it's devastating. And they think there's something wrong, but they don't understand when you're the new kid, you don't always get the place. You have to find places where you have access. And I'm always encouraging students to find places where they don't have to be invited, where they don't have to be apply, where there's open access. I found the campus newspaper, and I wrote editorials, and I never wrote before, and it became my passion and my career, which was wild. So who knows what's going to happen with your son? I found my places at the with an improv group. That was another place. I was a founding member of an improv group, and I was in a fraternity as well. And I didn't love that. I loved it. I loved that I got to meet people. I didn't like I was hazed. It made me uncomfortable. But the thing is, when I started the fraternity piece, and I like fraternities, there are a lot of good ones and wonderful ones. So I don't want to give it a bad reputation, but I didn't have enough places to have the power to set boundaries. Because when you only have one place and you don't have a lot of people, it can be very isolating. And this is why it's really important. Spiritual groups are great. You don't have to try out. They're nice people, and it's free food. Even if you're not into God, I tell people, just go for the free food. It's finding your places and finding your people, and understanding that it's going to take a little bit of time. And when you get rejected, it's not if, because if you're doing it right, you're going to get rejected. I think that's really key. And when you get rejected, instead of giving up or hating or being like, for example, with an a cappella group, say you want to help with marketing, if you don't get into the a cappella group, because what's going to happen when the kid gets sick or, doesn't show up because of laryngitis, or if they get COVID or something. I hate to say COVID, but like if they don't show up, it's the kid who sings, who's doing the marketing, who gets to jump in. That's how I got to be a columnist, because the columnist didn't show up in the newspaper, and the guy said, "Hey, Cohen, do you write columns?" And I go, "I do now." And that's how I wrote my first column. But you got to be in the place. And this is the strategy. It's people, places, and patience. The relationships that your children have made are a result of being in places and sharing experiences over time. That is it. A lot of students don't know how to do this. They don't plan on this. So it's a wonderful prompt to be like, hey, have you thought about your places? Where are your 3 places? If someone's part of an athletic team, they should have another place so that they don't feel pressured. Because when you only have one place, again, you do what other people want you to do, or you end up being alone because you don't have options. Places are where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. Sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. Well, where are some of those other places? Where are some of the places on campus? Counseling services, student orgs, intramurals, work study jobs, Greek life, performing arts, campus media. Multicultural centers are great. If any of you are from minoritized populations, I learned that term. I do a lot of work with multicultural centers and first generation students, and the term of minoritized is becoming more of like a accepted term. But there are wonderful organizations and places for those students, whatever your child identifies as, or your cultural background or religious backgrounds, finding those places and having that be where they find their roots. Who are the people who can help them, to guide them, to support them? People who volunteer, people they enlist, people who are paid. And then we have a whole list. Maybe we can make these available, figure out how to make the slides available, because they're really valuable. I can get them to you, Debbie.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, because you can just look through. There's a lot of your kids are going to be in first year experience classes where they're 1 credit classes or 3 credit classes where there's peer mentors. 3 places, always somewhere to go, always something to do. You always have options. And then I'm really encouraging about people, finding 5 people, and just the idea of people in different groups. And you could be one of their people, but we really want them to find their people on campus. And when you're visiting, when you're dropping a student off, when you're on the Facebook groups, you could ask, where are some of these places? Who are some of these people? And when you have more than one, you're never alone. You always have options, and there's always someone there. The thing is, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a couple semesters. It could take a good year. The first semester of college, I compare to a snow globe, those shaky snow globes, but it's a snow globe filled with fecal matter. So I'm cleaning up the language, but you know what kind of storm that is, okay? And that's what it is like that first semester. And then once things settle, they're grounded and they have a sense of where they want to go and what they want to do. Their struggles belong to them. Their victories belong to you. This is a really hard part of this, because I know my kids, when they struggle, I feel their pain. I feel their pain. And it's so important to make sure that you have someone that you can trust who doesn't have your last name, who your child can turn to. Or it could be someone who has the same last name if it's a sibling or a cousin or someone who's on campus. A lot of parents will hang on too tight. Wake-up calls are not a good idea. They're not about waking up your kid. They're about you knowing your kid is okay. And there's lots of ways to know that your kid is okay. It's loosening the grip enough and empowering your child to be able to work through these challenges on their own, which is really hard when you can't see them at night or in the morning. Is that hard? Isn't it hard, Debbie? Like how do you know? How do you know? I know we're getting close. I got a couple more of these tips, but like how do you know, like when your son was struggling, like, and you said goodbye and he was sad or unsettled, like how are you able to just be knowing he was in a difficult place?
It was very hard, very hard. I mean, I sat back and just knew that A, he was safe. That's the most important thing. And that, B, this too will pass and he will grow from it.
Yeah. It's really hard. And I think for parents, you have a community, Debbie, of people who you can lean on, I'm sure, and talk to. And I think it's so important for all parents to make sure you have your people in your places, so that when you have a child going through this, and if they're having the best time, that's great. But if you have a kid who's not having the best time, find other parents with kids who aren't having the best time. There's nothing more annoying than talking to a parent who's got a kid who's got everything going well. Find the other ones, okay? You can also hang out with them a little bit, but there's enough of them, because you're going to discover this is so common. And you could send me notes, because I'll get these notes. My kid is upset. They're thinking of leaving. Their significant other broke up with them. Their roommate's the problem. They didn't get into the fraternity or sorority. It's all normal. Okay.
And Harlan, if you're okay, just kind of bringing this back, maybe to numbers and financial stuff. The reason why all this is so important is if your child isn't happy, ultimately, maybe they might not do as well as they could have academically. Maybe they end up, as Harlan and I talked about earlier, not graduating on time. And that becomes really one of the most expensive problems that you're going to have to face. For paying for the 5th year of college is the most expensive year, if unfortunately you have to do that.
I was at a new student event at University of Illinois, Chicago, and the provost said, I'm going to give you a tip on how to save money. And he said, graduate in 4 years. So because that 5th years, that's the most expensive year. And one way to do that is to make sure that you have a plan. And I'm a big storyteller. I love for people to tell their story. I love to tell my story. Even the other day when I did that Today Show thing with Al Roker, I was nervous. I get nervous for these things. And I told the story. I jumped to the future of saying goodbye to Al and shaking his hand. This is the weirdest thing. I actually shook his hand. I just remember I got chills. That's so weird, because I was so nervous. And I thought the producers are going to love it and say how fantastic it was. And, and I really focused on trying to help Al and not trying to serve myself. And it really helped me to tell the story. And I think a lot of students don't know how to tell the story. And a lot of parents struggle telling a story. If you're worried about your child, that could be one part of the story, but the other part could be how they got help, how they were able to find support, how they were able to learn from these experiences. This is a wonderful template that I'm going to share with you. Somehow my head got too big. I had everything set up perfectly. So you tell your story as if it's already happened, jumping to the future. It's May 1st, 2023. I had the most incredible year. I reached my goal and accomplished fill in the blank. The most challenging part was fill in the blank. I got through it by leaning on these people, and I found people to help me in these places. It took me this amount of time to get there. So if you're nervous about something, or if your child's nervous about something, the question of what's your story? Let's fast forward to the end of the year. Let's fast forward to December. Let's fast forward to when I get to see you, or when we get to visit. What's that going to feel like? And you can tell me about how you were able to work through this experience and that experience. So you understanding the people and places is key. Simple rule number 4, and the other ones go really fast, so don't worry, we're close to the end, is apply the 24-hour rule. And the 24-hour rule is as much for you as it is for your child. Give problems 24 hours to settle. You don't need to drink wine, but you can if you choose to. But the idea is most of the challenges that your kids are going to be going through are not emergencies. Broken air conditioners, unless they have asthma, it's like there's uncomfortable situations. And when uncomfortable situations come up, it's not about you fixing it. It's about them attempting to find the people and places to solve their problems. And during that time when they're solving their problems, the 24-hour rule is wonderful. So if they reach out to you with a problem, do you solve it right away? Just listen, ask if they want your advice, but really give it 24 hours, because what's going to happen in 24 hours is nothing. The problem will still be there, and everybody will be a little more clear-minded. I know every email I write when I'm reacting, I never send. And then the next day I look at it and I never send the same message. Never. And when I'm with my wife, we're married 19 years and I figured something out. Debbie, this is important. I figured out sometimes I'm having a big reaction and I say, Steph, I need time to just process. Can I just have some time? And I actually take a break from the conversation and I come back and I'm much more clear-minded. So the problem will still be there tomorrow, or your child will solve the problem, or the old problem will no longer be a problem because there'll be other exciting problems that popped up. You know how that goes.
That's
right?
the best one, right?
Right. It's like, I figured it out. Figured what out? And then simple rule number 5, practice asking the question, what do you think you should do when they call? or reach out. And when it comes to calling and reaching out, you could ask them, how frequently do you want to communicate? So you could start with them, and then you can share how frequently you'd like to communicate. But chances are they're going to reach out to you at some point. What do you think you should do is the best way to respond. So even if you know the answer, it's the best way to respond. And then you can, if they want advice, and this is another piece, I don't know if you use this, Debbie, where a kid calls in distress, do you want advice or do you just want to vent? Really asking them. And if they want advice, think people, places, and patients. Where can you get that help? And be patient. Rule number 5 can only be followed by students and parents who are comfortable with the uncomfortable, have been thinking people, places, and patients, can allow their children to safely struggle, and can use that 24-hour rule. In my Naked Roommate book, in the first tip, this is the advice I give to students. It's relax, have fun, enjoy every minute. Your job is simple. Be your personal best, meet lots of people, make new friends, make smart decisions, possibly find a job, possibly find love, and take risk after risk after risk so you can figure out what you love and what you don't love. And it continues to just talk about these experiences. They're not always going to turn out as planned, and those are a gift. And that's really what this college experience is about. But as a parent, it is brutal to witness the struggle. And unless you have a framework, and I think this framework really has been helpful for other parents, it will enable you to be much more patient and give yourself and your child the room to grow. I'm available. I'm around. I answer emails. I answer texts. And if I don't get back to you fast enough, right? I thought you cared. That really hurts me, and I respond faster. Also, I've got a few books that you could check out. Mindset is a wonderful one by Carol Dweck, Grown and Flown. And then Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be by Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be by Frank Bruni is another great one. And then there's this Best First Year program. And with this, I'm checking in every month. And I might even check in more frequently. But as part of this, I'm sharing that. And then I've got videos that really break all this down. And I know College Ave has been kind enough to give 3 of these away. So based on the comments, Debbie will do a random draw and I'll figure out who gets these. And I'm excited to share those with you. And then I just have one more resource. I got Before College TV, where I have lots of interviews. And then you can find me in these places on social media. So I'm around.
Harlan, there's a very, good question. Maven was asking about your 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
Are there any times when you think that should be violated, when maybe you shouldn't wait 24 hours?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your child and the environment they're in. And if somebody has a history of not being able to regulate themselves, if you're sensing that there's danger, if there's something that's a higher health risk, then yes. But I think in general, giving those 24 hours is really helpful, because most students don't want to wait 24 hours. And that 24 hours is really about processing, who can I talk to? Where's that place on campus? And if you have a child who can't advocate, who has a history of having these challenges, then there's nothing wrong with you participating. And if you have to call and reach out to someone on campus, understand there's FERPA and HIPAA. FERPA is a federal protection act where your child will have to sign a waiver because they can't always offer information. And then there's HIPAA as well. You could ask about these waivers. But approaching a situation, there's 2 different approaches. One is, why haven't you fixed this problem? I'm calling my lawyer. And I get a lot of administrators who tell me, they don't like that, obviously. But then the second one is I'm really trying to help my child. They're dealing with this particular situation, and I'm trying to help them to identify the people who can get them what they need and some of the places where they can find support. Would you be able to help me? And in those situations, those campus administrators tend to be incredibly encouraging. And sometimes they'll even say, would you like me to do a wellness check? Would you like me to help? And it's a way for you to start to have allies on campus. If you have concerns and your child has a history of particular challenges when you're going to drop off, after you leave campus, if it's a residential community, walking around and having some of those conversations with those people who you can turn to so you can be a great partner during this experience.
That's great advice. Well, Harlan, somebody wrote, which is, I think a lot of us who are listening tonight said, you made them feel much better about their child going away to college this year.
Oh, that is all I want to do. I mean, I love helping and I love serving, and I just want you to all have just an amazing experience, and I want to support your children and their dreams. Some of your kids are going to have an easy time. Everything we talked about is not going to happen.
Something will happen. I don't honestly know. I don't
Okay.
know one family and one student where the whole year goes smooth,
Right.
but there is some students, have it easier than others, but there's never 100% perfection. So things
Yeah.
that you said here will apply to everybody at some
Right.
point.
Right. Right. And then if it's not during the college years, that transition from college to career
Yeah.
is another big one, because life is just a series of transitions. And this framework of what do I want? What makes me uncomfortable? People, places, patience, tell my story, celebrate, reflect, and repeat. Those are the 5 steps in the Win or Learn book. But that's the transition framework that applies to any of us as we go through life. And this is just the first time that
It's the first big time. Yeah.
yeah, and there's so few resources to reassure students and parents when it comes to navigating this change, and then circling back to the financial piece, because we want to graduate and have a career and be able to take care of ourselves and to be financially stable, and all of these things will help. And I'm really grateful for you, Debbie, and also for College Ave Student Loans being a wonderful partner to help me to be able to share this to support families.
Well, and let me just mention one thing. I think your framework, as you mentioned, applies now. It applies when they graduate.
Yeah.
But, and we're putting a lot of emphasis on freshman year, which is important because a lot of the people, watching, and that is the big transition from high school to freshman year. But you also kind of mentioned sometimes freshman year might go smoothly, and then it is sophomore fall where things start to hit, because
Yes.
sophomore fall can sometimes be the classes start to get harder. There's friend groups that have formed or fallen apart and reformed. So
Right.
this whole framework, can be relied on for lots of different
Yeah.
times, not
That's
just at the beginning.
Well, it's particularly because of COVID. We've had so many students who have had that delayed first year or delayed second year, and we're finding there's a lot of challenges sophomore year, there's a lot of challenges junior year. So this is all encompassing, and the same formula and framework, if any of you have children who are in high school or middle school or even grade school, it's that same formula of when you get uncomfortable, that's normal. All right, people, places, patience. How are you going to do it? Where are your people? Who are your places? Or who are your people? Where are your places? Got it.
Well, Harlan, this was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for being entertaining. Thank you for providing a framework that people can walk away with. Thank everybody here for actually being willing to share your own stories by, putting them in the comments. I think it's helpful because it shows that you might have said something that somebody else feels, but they, maybe didn't feel as comfortable saying it. But we were all kind of going through a lot of similar feelings and a lot of similar situations.
Yeah, thank you. I love those. I haven't been able to get to all the comments, but the chat just shows, everybody's got their story and everybody's going through their stuff. And there's so many people who didn't share. So if there's questions or anything that I can help you with, again, take me up on that.
So Christine's asking who won the giveaways. If that's okay, Harlan, I'm gonna go through the list randomly,
Yeah.
and then we'll pick 3 people and we'll send it out.
That sounds wonderful. So we will do that, right? That sounds great. So you'll be notified after.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you, Harlan. Thank you. This was great. And, we did this last year, but I don't know, like maybe we should do it more than once a year.
It's fun. It's fun. I really enjoy it. So thank you again for giving me this space, and for all of you for taking the time. So I'm in your corner, and I know, Debbie, you're in everyone's corner.
We're both. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Harlan. And we will see everyone soon. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.